of why people are doing it and why you should possibly consider doing it yourself. Okay, so a little bit about me. First of all, I was in the Navy for 9 years, 7 months, and 23 days. Okay, and when I got out of the Navy, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, so I started selling insurance with this company called Prepaid Legal. Anybody ever heard of that? I've heard recently that they're not really that name anymore. They changed like a couple weeks ago. But anyway, I don't do that anymore, so I don't really follow it. But Prepaid Legal is a network marketing company, but I wasn't doing network marketing. I was doing small business and group benefit sales to businesses like you. And because a lot of businesses knew that Prepaid was network marketing, I got a lot of negative feedback. Like a lot of people, they slammed the door in my face, or they kicked me out of their office, or they just told me no. And if any of you guys are in sales, and if you're a business owner, you're all in sales in some way, shape, or form, you kind of know that no doesn't always mean no. But I was in the Navy for 10 years. In the military, no definitely means no. And it means don't bother me again, leave me alone. So it took me a while to learn about sales. So I started using the internet instead. And I started a blog, and I started using MySpace at that time because that's all I had. Well, that's all I knew, really. It wasn't that's all I had. And in 2009, these are my web statistics in 2009. So Prepaid just started collecting statistics in 2009. At the end of 2009, I had 51,000 hits on my website. And that was a company-generated website. I couldn't do anything to make it better. I couldn't use keywords or optimization or any of that stuff that people are calling you about today saying it'll get you on the top of Google. None of that. But I still managed to get more hits probably than I was probably in the top 1% of everybody in the company on the web. But the website stunk, so no one ever really did anything on the site. Okay, but the other thing that I did was I went out and I got a free Google Places listing. Does anyone here have a Google Places listing for your business? Okay, everyone here should have one of those. It's free. It's virtually free. Getting traffic to it is a whole other issue. But that Legal Guy Business Consulting was how I rebranded myself to get away from the Prepaid Legal name. And I still get calls from this listing today. And you can see that if you Google small business Norfolk, I was able to rank above the Small Business Administration for such a generic term. A lot of small business owners are searching for that, or people that are trying to interact with businesses, they search for that term. And I was also getting ranking for legal consulting and things of that nature. So those are that was one thing that I did that was very simple, and I was able to get a lot of traffic. So you can see that my site was thatlegalguy.wordpress.com. That was my blog, and I used that blog actually to drive people to the follow-on site. All right. So a lot of people saw what I was doing, and there's supposed to be my logo right there, but for some reason it's not there anymore. And a lot of people started seeing what I was doing, and they were asking me to help them for free. And my ex-wife said that I was helping too many people for free. So I started a business, and that's where Guerrilla Social Media came from. So I'm not some person, some nerd that studied marketing for 4 years, and that's what they know. They know marketing. Well, I'm not really a marketing guy. I'm a regular guy that's just like all of you that had to learn some stuff on social media, and I had a lot of success. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of marketing professionals don't really know about social media because they know advertising, not social media. And there's a difference, and we're going to talk about that. All right, so I went out and I created Guerrilla Social Media, and when I did that, again, if you Google the term social media Virginia Beach, I still rank for, in the natural listings, so there's the term. I get the Google Places listing, which is for free. I did that, but also I was able to get ranking in what Google calls the natural ranking for free. So a lot of people have to pay to get in the natural listings, but the one at the bottom, that's my company website, and the one above that is actually an event that me and my friends put on at the beach like a couple of years ago, and it still ranks on the first page of Google. And that site hasn't been touched since 2009, maybe early 2010. So the idea is that you can do a lot of things online to get more traffic, and I like to get people that are calling me that I didn't have to work for, and the internet will do that for you. All right, so we're going to talk about some really basic things today, and I'm going to try not to get too much into tools and stuff because I don't really believe in tools. But the first thing we're talking about is social psychology, because social media is 90% psychology and then 10% technology, okay? So most of you already know the social stuff. If you've been in business for more than 10 years, some of you guys have been in business for much longer than that. You already know the sociology, the social piece, and all it is learning a couple of tools. The next thing we're talking about is the tools, because of course you need the tools, but I don't want you to get too focused on that, because it's really not too much about using the tools. It's just about using what you already know and implementing that in the tools that you use. And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about strategy. Okay? So, how are you marketing your business right now? How are you marketing your business?
Facebook.
That's it?
We do some ads in the newspaper.
Okay.
Website, word of mouth, website.
Okay. Do you know how many hits you get on your website every month?
Not a lot. We use everything.
Okay. Well, for the most part, if you're not using online stuff, your marketing is probably broken down into one of these three things. So you've got mass media, TV, radio, or some type of mass media. Then you've got the blast display marketing that could be considered a billboard, or it might be a car sign or a sign in your window or something like that. And then a lot of you are probably still doing some form of print, either in the newspaper or flyers or handouts or postcards, something along those lines. And for the most part, print media is starting to disappear like off the face of the planet. Okay? Now, advertising, all that stuff we just talked about, that's all advertising. It's not marketing. It is a type of marketing. And so I want you to realize that if it has to do with you sending out a message that says, buy from me, that is not social media. So if someone's telling you, hey, you should use social media to post specials about your business or talk about how awesome you are, then you are going to have a failing campaign every time. Okay? So think about ads in general.
Oh, okay.
Like the last time that you noticed an ad, like from the time you left home until the time you got here. I know this is Franklin and there aren't that many billboards, but you probably saw about 5 or 6 billboards maybe. Can anyone recall one billboard they saw today? Can you recall one? Okay, what about TV commercials? When you're watching the football game and a commercial comes on, what do? You probably turn to another game, you get up and you go do something more productive, or you TiVo or DVR through it. One of those 3 things probably. So we just generally ignore ads whenever we can. And so there's a change in the way that we process all of this marketing data, right? So to give you an example of that change, I'm going to show you something that I think probably most of us can relate to. Anyone here ever have a black and white television? Okay, now, believe it or not, I had a black and white TV when I was growing up. Maybe it was because I was poor, because my parents kept everything. But I did have a black and white TV. And at some point we went from black and white TV to color TV, right? And most people, except for the ones that were related to me, they threw away their black and white TV. and they got a color TV. And then we went from color TV over the airwaves to where we could plug our TV in the wall and get like cable or satellite. Okay, now, would you guys venture a guess, anyone want to guess what percentage of people in the U.S. have cable or satellite? 80, 100, 90? Try 56%. So only about half of the people in America have cable. Okay?
How do you know?
Because there's statistics out there. I mean, if you want me, I can go back and cite the source, but it's from like,
Okay.
it's
But
from
you're saying cable, not including the dish
cable
networks?
and satellite. Anything
Okay.
that comes not over the airwaves, only 56%. Now, if you think about it in terms of, if you look just at the poverty level, that alone will kind of answer that question why only half the people have cable. But there's a whole lot of other reasons too. Like there's places where you can't even get like Cox. Do you guys have Cox out here?
No.
See, so it's like there's certain places where certain services aren't even available to them. So it's just a whole bunch of different things. But only 56%. That means that 44% of the people get TV over the airwaves. And about a year and a half ago, the FCC made a transition from analog TV to digital TV. Anybody remember that? They had you people go out and buy this new technology and all this other stuff, right? Well, that's kind of what's going on in marketing. So the change from analog to digital TV was not a gradual shift. It was one day there was analog, and the next day there was digital. So imagine like a sailor, right? They go on a 6-month deployment, and then they come home. And let's just say that they had analog TV during that time. Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
So let's just say that during that time they just had the regular analog TV. Now they come home and they're in the dark. It's just that simple. There was no, and that's kind of what's going on in marketing. So nowadays we don't really process data the way that we used to. So there's a shift in the way that we communicate traditional methods because your customers are doing the same thing. They've just shut off the way they process your print media, your billboards, whatever. They just ignore it. And it's not because they don't want to see it. It's just because they're seeing so many ads. It's like somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 ads every single day we all see just because we're just seeing them everywhere. So they're asking how can they ignore me? So you have to ask yourself, how do you get around this concept? Because there's so much noise. So there is a shift in the way we communicate, and the shift looks kind of something like this. All right, so anyone here ever have the phone that's on the far left? It's like a little brick phone. Okay, raise your hands up.
That was a
Like
great
1,
fun.
2,
That
like,
was a
okay.
great fun.
About half. Now these are all the people that we know. They made a lot of money at some point in their life because that phone was extremely expensive to carry around. Just to buy the phone probably cost $1,000, and the bill was $300 or $400 a month. If you walked more than 10 feet away from your house, you were roaming. You know, that kind of thing. So, but nowadays we got the iPhone, which is on the far right, and it literally does 1,000,000 times more than what that phone on the right did. I mean, yeah, on the left did. It's just the progression of technology, and that's just the way that things are evolving. People need to get their information more readily, and the sooner they can get it, the better they can get it through a mobile application, through their phone. They're going to do that, and it's not generational. So, in the grand scheme of things, what do you guys think that social media is? Can I get like a
Facebook.
okay, Facebook is a social tool, yes. Communication? Okay.
Free.
Well, yeah, not all social media is free though, so we can't really say that. But to get rid of the cliche of social media, we're going to break it down as business people into 2 types of marketing. You got the sphere of influence marketing, and you've got, that means that's people that you know directly. We all have a sphere of influence, and if you're over the age of 40, whether you want to admit it or not, you probably know 2,000 people on a first name basis, and that's not including your enemies. We're talking about 2,000 people who actually like you. If you called them up today and you said, hey, do you want to have lunch today? They would probably say yes if they had time. Like if they had the time in their day, they would say yes. Okay? So think about your lifespan, people that you haven't seen since high school or college, they actually fall into your sphere of influence. And 5 years ago, if you wanted to talk to that person, you had to have a phone call with them, and that phone call was extremely inconvenient. It would take 2 hours of your time. And now, because of Facebook, you can keep up with them like that quick. Okay, the other kind of marketing is peer group marketing. What's that?
Actually used to mail that.
That too. But as we know, the post office is getting ready to go out of business, so you gotta be careful. Okay, now your peer group is people who are interested in the same things that you are, but right now you have no idea who they are. So they might be in the same business as you, or they might be into racquetball or golf or football, or they might go to church or whatever, or they could be a potential client or just some random person out there that's searching online. Your peer group are people who are looking for things that you could potentially be talking about, and they can't be found by you right now because you're not saying anything online. But when you start a blog, for instance, everyone here should consider that in the near future, you can actually maximize capturing people in your peer group that are just sort of randomly searching on Google. So,
Now, when you say start a blog, are you being, is it generic across any type of the social media?
no, a blog is a tool. It's totally separate. Like, you can't blog on Facebook, for instance.
Okay.
A blog is like a totally separate website, but this is a Facebook class, so we're going to try not to get too much off on a tangent about blogging for right now.
But you used it several times.
Well, because we're talking about what, things that I did.
Okay.
But today we're talking about Facebook.
Just one more question about blogging, and that's it. What are some good blog sites to get blogs started? Because there's so many out
The
there.
only one I use is WordPress. I don't recommend anything other than WordPress. Everything else,
What's the name of it?
WordPress.
And that's a free site?
Yes. Now, there's 2 types of WordPress. You want WordPress.org. That's where they give you the software, and you can do whatever you want with it. Okay. You said one more. This is number
It's
two.
not about blogging, I promise. It's about press releases.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts on that to help to put out press releases that help people to inform your consumers, potential consumers of your business, and that eventually lead back to your site?
Right. Well, the thing about press releases, quite frankly, is that there's a difference between a traditional press release and an online press release. So, I mean, yes, if you have a blog, then you would release your press releases, your online press releases through your website, through your blog. But that's like a little bit more advanced. But you do anything that you can put that is text, you want to put that on your site.
There are like third-party companies though that you can
Right.
press releases about you. What are your feelings on that?
Well, it depends on what their method is. If they're going to take the press release that you've already created and just release it, then that's a waste of money. Because you need, like I said, an online press release. You can have two press releases, or you can have a press release that if it goes to a news source, it's going to read a certain way, and if it goes to a search engine, it needs to read a totally separate way. But in the grand scheme of things, they'll say the exact same thing. Does that make sense?
Does what if I'm linking your Facebook to Twitter?
No, that's bad.
Really?
That's very bad. What's that? Linking your Facebook to your Twitter account or vice versa. Because the idea of social media is that every site has its own audience. So if you're saying the same thing to your Twitter audience that you're saying to your Facebook audience, and let's just say that you got a bunch of hipsters that are following you on Facebook and a bunch of moms that are following you on Twitter, then it's
You're not targeting your
right.
audience.
You're not saying right. So some things can be dual posted, but very rarely can that be an effective strategy. What time is it?
4:30.
All right, so we kind of need to skeet along so that I can start talking about Facebook. But social media is broken down into three main things. The first thing is the unselfish sharing of information. And for some of us that have been in business for a really long time, this is one of the hardest things to grasp because it means that your secrets really aren't your secrets anymore because there are other people that are online that are probably talking about those same things, but they just happen to be out in California. And if you have a potential client that's searching in Virginia and they find that guy out there, they're not finding you. So some things that are about your business that seemed proprietary 10 years ago are not so proprietary now, and you want to push that out to the internet as soon as possible. The second thing is social media is building relationships online. And what that means is that you can make friends with somebody on Facebook and never meet them in person, but then you see them in the grocery store and you feel like you know them. That is what Facebook can do. And then finally, it's engaging your community. So your business already has a community, that sphere of influence we talked about. So you as a person, you have a sphere of influence of people that you know, and so does your business. There are people that have patronized you for years, for months, people that return. Someone that's walked in your door of your business that's called you, they fall into your sphere of influence. They have already touched you. So the question is once that person touches you today, how do you continue touching them for an extended period of time without having to call them on the phone? Social media can do that. So there's two sides of things, and there's you, and then there's them. And the them is your customers, you is your business. So let's talk about them first. Okay, why do you think that people are so crazy about Facebook?
It keeps them in contact with everybody that they know, and like you said, it gives them money.
All right. So, okay, so hold on. So, number one, people are on Facebook to connect with other people. They are not on Facebook to connect with your business. So if you're using Facebook for your business, you're still going to use it for your business, but you got to think to yourself, every time you update something, no one cares about my business. They're not on here for that. So how can I engage them in other ways? The second reason is because people are nosy. She must be nosy. Now, people are nosy. People are nosy, and technically that has a negative connotation, but really what it means is that we kind of want to know what's going on with each other. And again, back to the original example that we used, someone from college, you haven't seen them in 20 years, now you can be a little bit nosy and see what they're doing on a daily basis just by looking at their profile on Facebook, and it takes you 35 seconds versus a 30-minute phone call. And still, it'll enrich that phone call because now you can say, oh, I saw you got grandkids, or I saw you got this, or you're doing that. Same thing. Now, the third reason from a business perspective is something that we fail to realize, but we do it every single day, is that people want to be acknowledged. Okay? So people want to feel like what they have to say has value. Does that make sense? So, yeah, there's a lot of social media people, Facebook people out there, and they want to teach you how to use tools. But again, it's not about tools. I can teach you how to use one thing on Facebook and acknowledge everybody that comes to your page and get way more traction than someone that knows about Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and blogging and blah, 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 blah. Who cares about all that? It's more about figuring out who your community is and engaging them as often as possible. So, enough about them. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? For those of you that use Facebook for your business, why are you doing it?
To get there.
Okay, to get new clients, maybe. But we're gonna say for
Keep your clients informed.
for right now, I'm gonna say that is probably not a reason why you want to use Facebook.
Why not?
And I'll explain that in a second. You do want to use it for that, but it's more indirect. That's like a byproduct of your Facebook strategy. So,
Communicate.
what's that?
Communicate.
Right. The communicate is one. But before we start talking about the definition, has anyone ever heard the term connector?